On 9th of June 1994, a small private plane was seen approaching Mantalai, some 80-odd kilometers to the northeast of Jammu town. The small plane was pounded by strong winds as it came into land on a private runway surrounded by tall deodar trees. The weather was bad and the pilot had warned against flying that day, but his passenger was not in the habit of taking advice. The plane hit a tree and burst into flames, killing both the people on board. The pilot, M.S. Mann, and an immensely rich and controversial Baba, who had at one time been the confidant of prime ministers and one of the most powerful men in Indian politics, Dhirendra Brahmachari. This past week, India has seen one very influential Baba come crashing down. But in 1994, when Dhirendra Brahmachari's plane crashed, he was already out of favor and power. But ironically, at that time, there was another very influential guru and another very influenced prime minister who was there in Delhi. It seems to be a constant, this influence of gurus and babas on politicians and people in power, which is why our person of interest this week is the political Baba, a saga which may have begun with Dhirendra Brahmachari, but it's certainly not going to end with Gurmeet Singh, Rahim, Insaan. You are the love changer, you are the love changer, you are the love changer. Gurmeet Singh, when he went to jail, was more popularly known as Baba Gurmeet Singh Rahim Insaan, the head of Dera Sacha Sauda. He is the quintessential self-appointed Godman, followed by millions. Like other such gurus, he too led a life of comfort amidst an ostentatious display of wealth and power. That was there for everyone to see and crave a pie of. Gurmeet Singh lords over a multi-million rupee empire that spans real estate, education, film production, health services, media and manufacturing. It is an empire that he virtually created from scratch.
The more money you spend, the more gaudy you are. In many of these cases, it makes a bigger impact. That's the. So they don't grudge the people who claim to be gods, that they, the ordinary rules don't apply to them. So they, they put on a show, and it feeds on this. The desire for spectacle. It's a kind of escapism also, you can say. People, people who are often very poor or live in the midst of deprivation, are given this theatre. It's like the old Roman, the circus and so on. So they have to put on a big show.
He was incredible in that he managed to make people compete to serve him. So it's true of many god cults that there's a lot of competition within the cult, who's closest to the guru. But in this case, it was competing to serve, like who'll give the most blood, who'll donate the most seva. But what is it that makes that person do it? It's the sense of community. Yes, it's the sense of immediate well-being, whether it is material, कि आज कल तुम्हें लाख का business तुम्हारा 10 लाख का हो जाएगा. It's a kind of immediate gratification. They don't have to wait very long, but in return you have to give something. That quid pro quo. Most people understand that, in everyday it's like a transaction. And it gives you a sense of identity. Who are you? Is Dera ke hain, hum us.
These people who can't afford those good school or good health, they get trapped. These are the incentives for the followers. Politicians become their friends, not because they're really good friends. They're ready to touch their feet of these people. Become their friends because there's a ready-made vote bank available.
Ostentatious display and immense wealth created in short spans of time mark out the really successful gurus from those who do not have large political clientele. The constant flow of ministers and political leaders seeking audience with the Satya Sai Baba created a power center of its own, the benefits of which saw the Satya Sai Trust grow at an exponential rate. While actual figures are rarely available, it was documented that in 2009, the Satya Sai Trust received a total of $19.5 million in foreign donations alone. The figure is not surprising, as with ashrams in more than 126 countries, his followers ran into millions and were spread across the country and the globe.
The Constituent Assembly had passed and adopted a resolution that politics and religion must be kept apart. You shall not exploit religion for political or electoral ends. But in practice, that is not honored. I can say it is honored mainly in the breach.
Like all successful Babas and Gurus, Satya Sai too had a unique selling point. He was famous for his ability to change his shape, to read minds, and to materialize objects such as jewelry, food, and holy ash with a wave of his hand. His devotees were convinced these were acts of God, while rationalists insisted the acts were a conman's sleight of hand.
Now, people do get carried away with those illusions they create. I call it PC Sarkar kind of an effect they create in India on men and women, and then the children also follow them. The families become their psychological prisoners. They create illusion, then their pursuit of the illusion, and then they distribute some goodies also.
It's also a case of being in denial. If you talk to people who are members of the cults, loyal members, they will deny all this, because there were stories even about child abuse in Satya Sai Baba's cult. Even the cults of more mentally aware gurus, like, and he said he was not a guru, J. Krishnamurti. He insisted, I'm not a guru. But the women who loved him, the people who came for his discourses, they saw him as a guru. And rationality, even when the guru is saying be rational, there can be an irrationality in the following.
Over the years, many have used the vulnerability of those seeking religious fulfillment to acquire millions of followers and build large devotional empires. The controversial religious guru from Gujarat, Asaram, is just one of them. With a smile plastered on his face, he too acquired millions of followers and built a massive empire based on blind devotion and the faith of his followers.
Different kind of attraction where they show off their wealth. That millenarianism, I am rich, I'll make you rich. I'll give you cars. I'll be able to, even if I don't personally give it, you'll get them through, you wait and see. They are basically trying to build up an empire, some kind of a parallel world where they are king.
Asaram Bapu, as he is known and as he is revered by his followers, literally controls an empire that stretches to over 400 ashrams across 19 countries.
Anybody who claims that he is a representative of God is basically a middleman, self-appointed middleman between God and human being. So there is many cases, I won't say all, many cases it happens to be not God-men but fraud-men. Earlier, these representatives of God, self-appointed representative of God, used to promise you heaven. The Godmen of 20th century or earlier, or the 21st century also, they promise you good life here.
In the 1990s, there was one guru who clearly dominated the political power stream in Delhi. Chandraswami, at that time, was one of the flashiest godmen that the country had ever seen. In 1971, Chandraswami met Narasimha Rao in Tirupati and soon grew close to the Congress politician who was then the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. And from then on, they became instrumental in advancing each other's careers. In 1991, when Narasimha Rao became the 9th Prime Minister of India and the country was witnessing the biggest balance of payment crisis, Chandraswami is said to have come forward with a solution. This was the time when India had pledged gold to the Bank of England to tide over the crisis, and apparently Prime Minister Rao's astrologer Chandraswami promised that his good friend the Sultan of Brunei, the world's richest man at the time, would loan the money India needed. So strong was Chandraswami's influence that it is said that the Prime Minister ordered a plane to be sent to collect the money. The idea was dropped when Finance and Commerce Ministry officials protested.
Chandraswami, for instance, was a major influence, so they start dealing with contract for this project, वो अपना आदमी है, उसका आदमी है, उसका नहीं है, that kind of, you peep into prime ministers or ministers' ears. So it will influence the decision making governmental process, and that will be naturally undemocratic. So they undercut the process of democracy. I'm worried about it. I know a bureaucrat. Once he went to meet the Prime Minister and he saw the Chandraswamy on a settee, lying down in a comfortable sofa or a settee, and Prime Minister of India was sitting on his feet. Towards the, he was sitting on the same settee, but in the feet side.
The original political Baba who could get anything done in the corridors of power in Delhi had to be Dhirendra Brahmachari. He was a regular visitor to Mrs. Gandhi at 1 Safdarjung Road. After the 1971 general elections that saw Mrs. Indira Gandhi returning as a more powerful Prime Minister, the Swami told his confidants, and word leaked out, that he knew the exact composition of the new cabinet that the Prime Minister was going to appoint. When he was proved 100% accurate, people with power and money took the hint. By 1977, Dhirendra Brahmachari had become the Rasputin of India. Ministers and mendicants, businessmen and bureaucrats, smugglers and sycophants, all ringed the Brahmachari.
I think Rajiv Gandhi pushed him out. Maybe he knew more about Dhirendra Brahmachari's baleful influence on governance of the country. If you interfere in decision making at the top level, you are impacting governance of the country. There are many chief ministers who used to go to Dhirendra Brahmachari, get us this done. He'll get it done, but obviously there are no free lunches, not even for sadhus and swamis.
The fall from grace for these godmen or political babas need not necessarily happen when their sponsoring politician loses power. Sometimes the Baba connection is cut, keeping political necessity in mind. Self-styled godman Asaram Bapu had as his loyal followers important political leaders cutting across party lines, like Raman Singh, Kuma Bharti and Ashok Gehlot. When L.K. Advani was on a dharna in 2004, Asaram had joined the BJP stalwart. Even the then Chief Minister of Gujarat visited Asaram's Ahmedabad ashram.
मैं मानता हूं कि बापू के शब्दों में एक यौगिक शक्ति रहती है उस योगी की शक्ति के भरोसे हम करोड़ों गुजरात वासियों के सपने साकार होंगे। मैं बापू के श्री चरणों में वंदन करता हूँ, उनको प्रणाम करता हूँ।
But when Asaram was charged with raping a minor and BJP leaders started making noises about how the charges might be politically motivated, the then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi, asked BJP leaders not to defend Asaram in the rape case. Today there are a number of court cases against Asaram in almost all the cities where his ashrams are located. The cases include charges of homicide, forgery, land grabbing and sexual assault. Not just that, at least 3 prominent witnesses in various cases have been murdered, allegedly to stop them from giving evidence against Asaram. It's time for us to take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll talk about other gurus and spiritual leaders who have tremendous influence over politicians, and they are not out of favor. We'll talk about them when we come back. It is a double-edged sword that these political babas play with. You know, political patronage when your disciples are in power, but there is a chance that the next government, that the next person who is not your disciple, when that person comes to power, the government may come down hard against you and your empire. Not every Baba claims to be God or a divine reincarnation on earth. Many of the big influential names of the times are yoga gurus or spiritual leaders. The most recognized Baba face of today would be that of the man who helms the $1.6 billion Patanjali Ayurveda and is credited with repopularizing yoga in India, Baba Ramdev. And while his yogic popularity might have been established on the faith of a sedentary middle class suffering typically urban ailments, his keen sense of timing ensured that brand Ramdev was visible in other arenas as well, like politics. Close to the current government and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Ramdev's tryst with politics began in 2011, when the country suddenly got romanticized by the anti-corruption call given by a white-clad septuagenarian ready to fast unto death. Ramdev sensed the time was right to launch his own headline-grabbing move.
On the 4th and the 5th, intervening night of 4th and 5th June in 2011, there was a crackdown. The rumors were that there is negotiation going on with the government. They will not pick Baba up and take him anywhere. But at around 8:30 or 9, that there is a massive build-up of security forces. CRPF is there, Delhi police is there. Ramdev was on the stage. It was at around 10:30, quarter to 11. His bodyguards had, were all around. There were women, announcements being made for the women to come and sit in the front row so that the police cannot lathi charge and go inside. And then suddenly there was tear gas that was lobbed. CRPF, Delhi police rushing in, trying to clear that entire Ramlila Maidan. And in that confusion, people running all across, Ramdev jumping from an 11-foot high stage and his followers catching him, down below. And post that, suddenly he disappeared. The police was in panic, the people were in panic, it was, chaos all over. And Ramdev for a few moments disappeared. The police was trying to locate him because the orders were very clear. People had to go, Ramdev had to be arrested. In this commotion, Ramdev once again appeared through the crowd on top of somebody's shoulder, his security guard or somebody. And they were trying to take him out. That's the time when the police located him, and again a huge build-up moved towards Ramdev. Once again, the Yoga Baba disappeared. Nobody knew where he's going. The police then started checking everybody who was stepping out of the pandal. They were a group of women that were running out of the pandal. A policeman, also a Jat from Haryana, saw this really tall woman, allegedly woman, walking, very, almost running, tall, well built. And what gave it away? This is what the cop told me, was the unusual dadi that was coming out of that rupatta that you have on your head.
Another spiritual guru who holds immense influence amongst people in power is the one whose followers add a double suffix before his name. Venerated for his calm, composed aura, Ravi Shankar is the New Age guru who early on mastered the art of living. It is not enough to live a certain way. It is important for important people to contribute to the art of living, the Ravi Shankar way. A chosen path that highlights the sect's secular leanings. A guru who preaches mostly to the educated upper middle class market and hosts mega world cultural events. The World Cultural Event that was held in Delhi in 2016 ended up damaging almost 170 hectares of the Yamuna floodplains in the capital. With Prime Minister Modi as chief guest of the event, with the Chief Minister of Delhi attending the show, the 3-day extravaganza was hailed a success. The National Green Tribunal, however, slammed the Art of Living Foundation for damage to the Yamuna floodplains, terming it as shocking. Many accused the Bangalore-based guru of using his clout in the political and bureaucratic circles to reduce the amount of fine his foundation was charged to pay.
They are openly engage themselves in politics, and they may switch sides and ask their followers to vote or this or that, and they seek favors, and without the connivance of the state, the police, the administrative machinery, the government, whether it's state or central, they won't be able to do any of this. And you saw what happened with Sri. There was a huge, he got away with what other organizations could not, whether it's the environment or other things. You're given special privileges which no common, which others don't get.
Another guru from times gone by who catered to a primarily upscale or westernized market was born Chandra Mohan Jain, but then became Bhagwan Rajneesh, and then later simply Osho. Rajneesh had ashrams in the US and India. The Godman was against marriage and gained international notoriety as a sex guru. Among his most famous Indian followers were Bollywood stars Vinod Khanna and Parveen Babi. Rajneesh made no efforts to conceal his opulent lifestyle. He wore diamond-studded caps and gowns and reportedly had a fleet of 97 Rolls-Royce in mint condition. But this Godman too got involved in politics, not in India but in the US. In 1984, a bioterror attack was traced to his followers who wanted their own candidate to win county elections in Waco, Oregon. He was deported from the US, and after being denied entry across many countries, Rajneesh had to return to India, where he died a few years later in 1990.
They use the mass media, this politics, and in places like Tamil Nadu and all, of course, the southern states, it's very clear. Politics and theatre and being able to speak, being able to act and is very linked. But even these people, very often they are very powerful preachers, speakers. Rajneesh, Osho Rajneesh, he was because he was philosophy trained, he was like a soothing, hypnotic, he used to woo you with his voice. So they have some talents.
Not always does political influence help when a Godman's luck runs out. Like Rajneesh, who got deported, like Asaram, who is still in jail, like Dhirendra Brahmachari, who had so many cases against him, like Gurmeet Singh, who has been sent to prison, like Chandraswamy, the one-time power broker who had to spend years behind bars. Dhirendra Brahmachari died when his plane crashed, before the outcome of the cases against him. But this other Swami became the most famous resident of Tihar jail. He spent his last years in relative oblivion at his ashram in Delhi. But Chandraswamy had to keep appearing in court in the many cases that he continued to face. This political Baba found his moksha when he died in May 2017.
Part of the solution can be to expose the misdoings of these Godmen and the institution, Godmen and Godwomen also. There are quite a few. And the institutions that are built around them, the huge following, you can't punish the followers because they are, many of them are themselves victims. So I think this has to be exposed, but unless, because how do you cure the political system? That is a difficult question, because they obviously find value to it. They themselves may be superstitious, and so on. I hang my head down in shame when a president of India or a major elected politician, goes there and does what people who are in a very vulnerable situation do, pay public obeisance, violating the spirit of the constitution.
It's a risky business, religion and politics. So it's a risky concoction. It's not really very safe, but it will carry on. It will carry on.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.